awkward for me because I'm not normally used to being up on the stage with a microphone like this. The talk that I'm going to give today is about creating confident children. And when I first thought of this talk, the first thing that I thought was, okay, I'm gonna talk about people creating this child that's gonna walk into a room and, yes, I'm here. You know, you think confident, you think somebody that has magnetic presence as soon as they walk in the room. Until I actually got into the definition of what it means to be confident. And if anybody has a handout, does everybody have a handout that you can follow along with? What I'm going to try to do first is I'm going to try to define the term. Then I'm going to set up the ultimate goal. If you were here the last time, I'm really big on ultimate goals. Because if you have an ultimate goal, then you have something that you're aiming forward, you're aiming towards. The next I'm going to talk about rose bushes. And this is going to sound all weird, but it's going to all tie together. Then strong shoulders, then tandem growth, then flying arrows. So the first thing that I want to do is I want to define the term confident. And I know if you guys hear this, you'll be excited. At least I was excited when I heard it. The term confident means with trust. Okay, with trust. So I want a child with trust. But what does trust mean? I found out that trust means a firm belief in the reliability, abilities, truth, and strength. Now put those two things together. We want children with a firm belief in their reliability, in their abilities, in their truth, and in their strength. Sit with that for a second. We want our children to walk out into the world and walk out into their lives knowing that on the inside they can rely on themselves and others. That they are able to handle whatever comes their way. And that they are truthful and trustworthy. That they have an empowerment and a strength. This is what it means to make a confident child. And the ingredients that I found, I went to this wonderful conference. And one of the things, the conference was actually about the African American community, which of course is perfect for this council. But overall, what I learned is that you have to have the past, present, and future involved in moving forward with anything. And same thing with the confident child. So our ultimate goal, get back to that ultimate goal. The last time we talked, it was prepare competent, capable, mature adults. Now we're going to add confident to that list. And one of the things that we have to do for our African American students especially, but for all students, is help them learn how to do a term that I found, I've heard it not all my life, but I've heard it fairly recently. And it's a Ghanaian word, and it's the word sankofa. And that word means go back and fetch it. It's a term that's used to learn how to go back into your past to bring up the jewels in order to move forward with your life with any type of reliability, any type of abilities, any type of truth and trust. So one of the things that I'm going to mention today always sets everybody on nerve. So what I want you to do is the thing that I learned at this conference is you gotta stay in the room. When topics get brought up that make us uncomfortable, we have a tendency to leave the room or we turn our hearing off because it's causing some cognitive dissonance in us. What I want you to do is I want you to stay in the room because not only is this information going to help our African American students, it will help all of our students if we're willing to just listen, okay? The other thing is I want us to keep in mind generational patterns happen, and I don't know if anybody else but me has watched yourself do the same thing over and over again and it's not producing what you want. That is a generational pattern. And that is also the definition of stupidity. Go figure. And what I learned is that when you can examine what you want to change, when you are willing to look at it, you can change it. But you first have to what? Stay in the room, right? Okay. So now I'm going to get into these rose bushes, and this is where that difficult conversation comes in. And if you have your handout, you'll notice that a lot of, well, all of these slides come with virtues. And for those who don't have it, on the slide of rose bushes comes, the virtue is balance and respect. And one of the things that I feel that we're all missing, especially to try to build a confident child, is a balance in who we are and a respect for who we are. So when I had and I thought about it, I thought about past, present, and future. What are the things that we need collectively and individually for these confident children? They need to know contribution. They need to know how they contribute. And what I found is, if any history teachers are in here, or any person who teaches history, who has experienced history, we know that European Americans are often told their contribution. It's repeated over and over again. What they contribute to the building of America, right? And with the Jewish community, through their Holocaust, they're taught empowerment through their story. Here's suffering that you've gone through, but you persevered. That is your power. That's how you move forward. Part of being that confident person. And with other people of color, I have hand-me-down. Because when you think of a hand-me-down, you think, I have this thing and I'm going to give it. It's quality. Hopefully it's quality that you're handing down. But I'm going to hand this down. And with other people of color, you get to hand down culture. You get to hand down language. You get to hand down food. What about the African Americans? And if you think about the way that our history has been wrote to us, for 400 years, we have not, well, for 400 years, the government, the state, and local law has prevented us from participating in those three things consistently. From our contribution, knowing what we've contributed, knowing how we can be empowered through our story, and knowing what we hand down. So that's what we're going to get to today. That's part of the same hope. We're going to go back into the African history, the African American history, and we're going to pull from slavery. We're going to pull back, go back, and we're going to fetch the love. We're going to fetch the empowerment. We're going to fetch the contribution, so that all of our children know that everybody contributed to the American story. That's confidence. Okay? First thing we have to realize is, like I said, the slavery thing, we want to understand that it's very difficult to talk about. But when we go back and we pull those important things out, like these people fought. They fought for their lives. They fought for each other consistently, time and time again. How do you know? You're all sitting here. They endured. They endured some of the most horrific types of lives, but they made it. How do you know? You're sitting here. These people built, and they had to have built because if they fell down at any point in time through their trials and tribulations, you wouldn't be here. And these people persevered. They persevered when literally every law, government, local and state law, was against them. They persevered through the most heinous types of abuse. How do you know? You're sitting here. Those are the things that we go back into our history and fetch for our children. Those are the stories that we need to go back and tell them, so that they have a firm grasp when they're walking and they hear about the European contributions, and they hear about the Jewish contributions, and they hear about other people of color's contributions. They know they contributed too. And that helps everybody, because that allows for balance. There's a balanced story here. It's not just one person did one thing at one time or another that got us all here. We all did it. And for our children to hear that and to feel that and know that, confidence, they feel empowered. They can walk into a room with their head high, right? Because I know if I would have known this when I was younger, my whole disposition would have been different. And also going back, one of the things that I want to pull forward is that these people were wholly no vision of freedom. And yet, that's what they sung about. That's what they thought about. That's what they told each other about. They wrote it. They did whatever they could to get that in their head. These are the see-throughers. They looked at their current situation, and they saw through to you. They saw through. They said there's going to come a time, I may not experience it, my children may not experience it, my grandchildren may, but there's going to come a time and we're all free. That visionary is what our children need to know is in their history. So that no matter what they're enduring at school, at home, at work, when they get older, they can see through from right where they are, right? Another thing I want to think about is the present. And this is one, I saw this meme and it blew my mind. To get to each one of you, it took 1 in 400 trillion. That is the ratio and the probability of you existing. You personally. 1 in 400 trillion. So just think about that. You have a better chance at winning the lottery than you existing. What does that tell you? That tells you you are irreplaceable. That tells you on the inside that you have something to add to the whole of this story. It tells you you're important. It tells you the major thing that it came to my mind, that it tells you that you have purpose. Nobody in this room is a mistake. Nobody out there in those streets is a mistake. No matter how many mistakes that they make, they're not a mistake. They're purposeful because it took 1 in 400 trillion to get to you. Okay? Keep that in mind when you're thinking about talking down on yourself. Thinking about that when you feel like, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. I don't know what I'm going to do. Because that's where your confidence comes from. And the reason why I keep saying you and not the children is for a reason. Tandem growth is the next point. And by tandem growth, I mean exactly what that picture is. It's hand in hand. Most of us didn't get this information starting off as a parent. I said at the last one. Did anybody get a manual when you had kids that said how to do it right? No. And nobody here got, as you're going along, like, oh, here's your guideposts, here's what their personalities are going to be, and this is how you respond to those personalities. Anybody got that? No, okay. I didn't either. So because we weren't prepared, one of the things that we have to understand is we're going to be learning with them, hand in hand. That means we're both going to be failing a lot. And that means we're both going to be not getting it right a lot. But the point is that we keep going forward. And the first thing that came to my mind is teachers teach teachers. Every teacher in here was taught by a teacher. They weren't taught by a plumber. They weren't taught by, the gas man. They were taught by a teacher, and normally a master teacher. So our job is to become masters at our confidence. It's to be masters at whatever it is that we're trying to get, the trajectory we're trying to put our children on. We have to become masters. But we didn't get that training from the beginning, so we have to do it with them. So that takes a lot of compassion for us and for them. One of the things I wanted to read, and this is really powerful, I love this book. Her name is Ruby K. Payne, and it's a framework for understanding poverty. One of the things that our children, one of the many things that our children need are resources. Lots and lots of resources. And we always think resources are money, right? So she has 8 resources. And when I read them, I had no clue. That our children need 8 resources in order to move forward. So if our children need 8 resources, what do we need? Financial. Having the money to purchase goods and services. Emotional. Being able to choose and control emotional responses, particularly to negative situations, without engaging in self-destructive behavior. This is an internal resource and shows itself through stamina, perseverance, and choices. Mental. Having the mental abilities and acquired skills, reading, writing, computing, to deal with daily life. Spiritual, believing in a divine purpose and guidance. Physical, having physical health and mobility. Support systems, having friends, family, and backup resources available to access in times of need. These are external resources. Relationships and role models, having frequent access to adults who are appropriate, who are nurturing to the child, and who do not engage in self-destructive behavior. Knowledge of hidden rules, knowing the unspoken cues and habits of a group. How many people know that they're missing some resources? And I know I was missing some resources. And in order to gather these resources, you have to be confident. You have to know what it is that you need, and then you have to be confident enough to go out and present yourself to ask, right? Because we remember, what we give our children is the thing that we have to possess. One of the other things that I learned, and I actually put this on the last presentation, is people who will radically affirm a child's goodness. And when I read that, it touched me so much because a lot of our children go without somebody looking at them just once in a day that goes, I'm so happy to see you. Somebody that when they walk into the room, they light up because, you're so wonderful. Our children are starving for that. But guess what? That means so are we. So that we have to do the tandem walk with our children and gathering these resources so that we can hand them down to them because, again, we want confidence. These children have to learn through us that they're reliable. They have to learn through us that they have wonderful abilities. They have to learn through us that they are truthful and trustworthy. They have to learn through us their personal power. And we all know, because we've been in school long enough to know that children don't learn through talk. My son's in here, and I know he hates when I talk. But they learn through watching. So when they see you doing these things, they have no other choice but to emulate it, right? So that's your tandem walk with your children. Now, I have a target on the next slide, and there's a reason. Because we are the bows. Our children are the arrows. And we're always aiming for that confidence, that capability, that determination, that perseverance. Are we going to fall short? Absolutely. If anybody in here has had a child that has an IEP, I have one. Every time my child had a goal, say they started at 40%. The goal was to move maybe to 60. Then the next time was to move to 80. But it was never 100 because they realized nobody was going to try to get that 100 all the time. It's not possible. You're always aiming for it, but you'll never get it. That's failing forward. When our children learn how to fail forward and they watch us fail forward in confidence, they build confidence in themselves. And what that ends up turning into is that turns a master into a master. We become masters, and we make masters. So what type of vision are you holding for your children today? You think about it. Because I never thought about it. So if you don't feel bad if you've never thought about it. What type of vision are you holding for them? Because whatever vision you have is going to be what it is. And if you have no vision, well, when you get what you get, that's what you got. You didn't hold it. So whatever vision that you're holding, if you're holding out for that confident child, if you're holding out for that capable child, if you're holding out for that confident child, then hold that vision and be like those slaves back then and see through. See through to it. No matter what they're going through right now, no matter how hard it is for them right now, see through to that vision of them and walk with them